What's up, survivalists? It's Chief from TeamWnJ here, and welcome to the long-awaited fight choreography tutorial. Now I'm going to keep it very basic, just a simple 1-2 punch so we can get some concepts across. We'll go over some timing, some quick rendering stuff. I hope this tutorial won't stretch out too long, but there is a chance that it could go up to, like, I don't know, 30 minutes. Without further ado, let's get started. First of all, we have Chief back here again, so we're going to be using him as the main character. As I've explained before, his fight style is an aggressive fight style. He is relatively short, but he is relatively powerful because he is a dwarf. I'm going to skip over putting him into the fight stance because you've already seen me do this a million times. Alright, now that we have him in his fight stance, let's add in the second character. All I'm going to do is hit the content browser and grab the FMR rig. You should know how to do this. Alright, here we go with the FMR rig. I'm just going to give him a quick skin, put him in the fight stance as well. You don't need to see this, it's pretty common sense. Alright, so here we go, we have him in his fighting stance. I've also put in the HDR studio rig just so we can have something white to look at. You can get that on grayscalegorilla.com. So I haven't put too much effort into getting this rig done. I haven't even bothered moving the mouth. The mouth is in a bad position. He is in a different fighting stance as opposed to the Chief over here. He's more reserved, he's more defensive with his hands over here. But that's not what's important right now. Let's get animating. So what I wanted this scene to happen is I'll have this dude punch with his lead hand, probably a round punch to Chief's head. Chief will block this with his hand here. With this hand, he'll counter with a straight punch. He'll take a step forward, getting closer, and he'll throw the same punch again. And that'll be that. Whether he gets hit or whether he blocks it will be entirely up to how the scene plays out. So first of all, once you get two characters in, you're gonna have to put them in at a certain distance. This distance doesn't really matter yet. We're going to animate the first punch, then we'll readjust them and have the punch hit. So don't bother trying to get this fist to get to his head right now because that's never going to reach. So for starters, I want this dude to throw his punch. We know he's clearly out of range, so let's bring him in a little bit. We don't know whether it's going to hit or not yet. So real quick, before we start animating, I actually want to right click on your rig and go to Cinema4D tags and hit vibrate. Under vibrate, we're going to enable position and we're going to set X as 1 centimeter and Z as 1 centimeter, but we're not going to touch the Y axis, and we're going to set the frequency down to 0.5 or however much you see fit. What this will allow to happen is for a slight idle animation, so he's going to look like he's breathing a tad bit. We're going to hit Control to copy, and we're going to click on the vibrate tag, and we're going to drag it up to give the other guy vibrate tag as well. Now both of these guys are vibrating. Just gives them a slight animation, so when they're idle, they're not exactly standing still. So now we're going to grab the lead hand of this blue dude, and we're going to start doing an animation for his punches. For starters, I'm going to turn on auto keying just in case I forget to do things. I'm going to set a keyframe at keyframe 0. So the maximum amount of punches you can throw in 1 second is around 7 or something along the lines of that. Now considering that 1 second is 30 frames long, 7 divided by 30 is 4.28. Meaning each punch should go out and retract back in 4 frames. Knowing this, I'm going to set keyframe 0 as the origin, position A, and frame 4 also as position A. I'm going back to frame 2, and we'll make this position B, which is the impact position. So I've really stretched out his arm here. This is a haymaker, it's not a hook. So no technique here at all. He's just stretching his arm out as far as he can, trying to hit something. I've also rotated the wrist a little bit just to make sure that it's curved. Like so. Now right now you're going to find that he throws a straight punch and it's kind of weird. So what we're going to do is in frame 1 and frame 3, where there are no keyframes, we're going to drag them out. Oh, actually, one thing that I forgot to do is actually change the frame rate down. So we're going to set the frame rate to 24. And we're going to set the working frame rate over here to mode project. We're going to set this down to 12. That's half of our frame rate. Now I'm going to just reposition these real quick. So now we see that he basically throws his haymaker, but it doesn't look 100% like a haymaker just because his arm doesn't have that big wind up. This is an important point because not all punches get thrown at the same speed. Throwing 7 punches in 1 second requires you to throw all straight punches. Round punches travel a longer distance and thus take a longer time to travel. What this means is that although we have the basic 4 frame punch, we're going to have to extend that out a little bit. My estimate would be around 6 or 8 seconds. I'm going to bring it out to 8 for now. And this will allow us frame 2 and frame 6 to have a wind back. Now we can see that we have a basic arm punch done. This doesn't look quite right yet just because it is an arm punch, and like I've explained in previous videos, an arm punch is not a punch. He's simply punching with his arm. There's no power and no backing behind that. It's missing that torque of the body. So now that his punch has been thrown, we're going to readjust the hip. Usually you would do the hip first before doing the arm just because the hip determines the position of the arm. But because this is the first punch, I use the fist to determine the position of everything beforehand. So now we'll set a keyframe for the hip at keyframe 0. We know that his punch lasts 8 frames, so we're going to have to reset a keyframe at frame 8. At frame 4 is where the biggest impact will be. I'm going to twerk this way far. Frame 4 possibly, that looks good. At frame 2 and frame 4 he winds back. Let's make this around there. Possibly a bit more. Nope, I'll leave it there. And back here we'll do the same thing. Now the hip is done, we're going to do the shoulders. Now if you look at the bottom screen here, you can see he throws a clear, whoops, he throws a clear miss. And it goes way off. That's why you usually do the body first. Now we can go back to the arm, and now we can reposition the arm. So it seems I overshot the body at first, so I'm just going to reposition it and make it not so exaggerated. So now it resets back to relatively the same position. We're going to reset his arm, make sure it hits. The wind back is fine. That is fine actually. And everything else, oh that's fine, perfect. So let's not overlook the details and let's make the rear foot turn a slight bit only. I'm going to do a keyframe at 0, 4, and 8. On keyframe 2, I'm going to make this turn just a tad bit outwards. So let's not neglect the other hand as well. Usually you'd have to animate something to go along with it, but this looks fine to me. It sticks to his head, that's how it's supposed to be. Yep. So now you have his basic animation. There is what looks to be a slight bug over here that I have to fix. Yeah, when he brings his hand back like that, that is not normal. So it looks like just a weird keyframe issue. Just move around the keyframes and you should fix your problems. That looks good to me. Let's get some reactions and let's get him blocking that initial haymaker. So first of all, now that we have our position set, his punch does not land, but it could land if he took a step forward. So if you wanted this to land, you would just take him and you'd move him forward like so. But we don't want it to land. We want him to block this. So first of all, I'm going to animate his torso over here, the chief's torso. Again, we're starting with the body just because the hand follows the body. I'm going to grab his torso or his hip and I'm going to shove him forward a slight bit as well, just to shift his weight down. I'm also going to take his hand and I'm going to extend this outward to intercept the punch. Now you can see that the punch clearly has not been blocked. It's in his face right now. So that means we're going to have to reposition his punch. Now because there is a big wind back for the guy punching and not a big wind back for the chief blocking, it looks desynced. one person is moving faster than the other. I'm suggesting that because he's throwing such a power shot, we need a power block as well. We're going to have to wind this back a tad bit and then extend it back out. This applies to the body as well. We're going to have to move him back a slight bit and then have him shoot forward. And we're also not going to give him the pleasure of retracting his arm back that quickly. Matter of fact, I'm deleting frame 8 because I want his hand to stay down. I'm now going to move his hand inwards, something like that. On frame 8, we're going to move the chief a step forward, because here, right at frame 4, Chief will return fire with a straight punch. And as we know, a straight punch takes 4 frames. That's perfect, because on frame 8, that's where we'll land. So on frame 8, let's move him a bit closer, and we'll get the footwork done as well. Now I don't want him close enough to shut down this arm in the first place. Now that he's close, we'll move this arm back down so it looks like he's pinning it. Now that's overextended. I want to make sure that it's not overextended, something along the lines of that, possibly. There you go, that's even better. Obviously, that's not reaching, meaning we gotta move him closer. Let's not get lazy. Let's set a keyframe for the wrist. Now let's give the wrist a little bit of rotation so it looks like it fits in perfectly. Just gonna rotate this sideways a tad bit. And then let's fix this by pushing it forward. And we'll rotate this back upwards as well. Something along the lines of that, so it looks like he's grabbing him. Yeah, there you go. So he punches, and he grabs, and he shoves it. Stuffed. Now, obviously, he's doing a Michael Jackson right now. He's like, you know, flying in. That's not right. Let's fix that. What needs to be fixed is the footwork right here so he doesn't fly in. He'll need to take a step forward with his lead leg. Now, the Chief would use the momentum of the step forward to throw the punch with him. However, because he uses his other hand to shut down his arm, he effectively has to rotate his body this way to shut down the arm, and he can't rotate his body the other way to throw the punch. Meaning we're going to have to give this a... We're going to finish the step first. So right around here, after his first foot lands, we're going to bring in his other foot. So around frame 8 to frame 12 will be a step. Right now we can start rotating the hip. Something like that. So we're going to grab a striking hand, we'll set a keyframe at frame 8, and we will set one at frame 12. The frame 12 one will be in his face. Might curve that a bit more so it looks a bit exaggerated. Let's not forget to shift this forward as well so his balance goes forward. Perfect. Let's fix his other hand up. Let's not neglect this. He doesn't seem to be looking on target. Let's fix that. Doesn't seem to be looking at target on frame 8 either. Let's fix that. Now, for whatever reason, it seems that the keyframes for the chest has not registered. So what this means is that we have to reset these. Alright, so be careful with the auto keyframe. Auto keyframing doesn't do the things you want. Alright, now that the rotation has actually been keyframed, it looks a lot better. So I think this video has gone on for long enough. Just for conclusion's sake, I want to show you how to do a quick render. So we're not going to do a full render. In fact, we're just going to render what's in the viewport. I'm going to set myself into good position so I can see everything. So it only goes up to 0 to 13 right now. That's all I'm going to render. I'm going to go to render settings. I'm not going to save it. I'm just going to do an output of 0 to, say, 15. Or 13 or whatever it was. 13. I'm just going to do 14 just in case. And we're going to change the renderer to a hardware OpenGL. This will render what's in the preview window. And now when we hit render, yep, continue without saving. And this will very quickly render what's in the viewport. Now we can see the problems here already are that his wind back is a bit mechanical, so we can make that more organic. This block seems a bit slow. His punch seems a bit fast. But the punch doesn't seem fast if you take into consideration his haymaker. So the punches are around the right speed. This block is a bit slow, and that's all we have to work on is the block and making the wind back feel less mechanical. But this video has gone on for way too long. I'm just going to cut it short. We'll make a second part detailing all of that, as well as giving him a reaction to the punch, as well as giving him a retraction from the punch. Thank you for watching. I hope you stay tuned for the next part of this tutorial. And I will see you next time. Peace.